14-10. Touchdown, Chargers!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Chargers Weekly, presented by Splitero. As always, joined by the voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith. And Money, this is not the content studio, but not a bad backdrop here in São Paulo, day 2.
No, it's been great. What a wonderful trip. The people are incredible. Could not be happier to be here. I've had some great experiences. I know the players enjoyed the pressers, and everyone's just been so incredibly friendly. What an awesome opportunity for us, and just can't wait to get this game going, dude.
Yesterday felt like maybe 2 or 3 days, just with the time change and everything that went into yesterday with the pressers and the media day, getting in, about a 12-hour flight. Not a bad flight, though, right?
I slept the whole time, man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I'm pretty good about that. So I think I might have won the sleep championship. I think I got about 8 hours. So that was pretty good, and there was some adversity that I had to overcome in order to get those 8 hours, but I feel like I faced it head on, took it on, and came out victorious.
Yes, you did.
And I'm hoping I defeated my opponent, because I think I might have defeated my opponent that put that adversity in front of me as well.
So the Chargers, they've been.
It's all right. You want to get past it. It's inside, and that's where it'll stay. But yeah, there is a hierarchy, and you quickly figure out your place in the pecking order. And similar situation on the flight back from London. For whatever reason, I'm just that guy. You know, they come to me, and I'm like, yeah, put me wherever you want. Let's go.
Listen, man, you are amenable, you are flexible,
That's right.
you are fluid.
That's right.
I think the thing about this trip, though, Money, it's only a 4-hour time difference. So it's almost like an extended East Coast trip. But the staff, this is a true team effort. Just getting these guys on the correct sleep schedule, the hydration, the nutrition, and trying to make a trip halfway around the world essentially just as seamless as possible.
Yeah, look, I think the thing to keep in mind is, yes, the Chargers lose a home game. They lose a home game against a division rival. That division rival that's won the division and has dominated the division, winning 51 of their last 60 games against it. Not ideal, but the Chiefs are going through the same thing. And as we have now figured out, having been here for almost 2 days, the roads are not easily navigated. And so they do have, I think, the Chargers do have an advantage. We are considerably closer to the stadium than the Chiefs are. Our commute is going to end up being about 20, 30 minutes. Theirs could be anywhere from 90 to 3 hours. Like it could be any of those things. So I think you build that in, and maybe there is a little bit of a home field advantage. Point being, they're overcoming the same thing we are. For the people that are saying, you dealt the Chiefs a winning hand again. How could you do this to the Chargers? All that stuff I get, because it's happened in years past, traveling for Thursday night football games. But for this, it's the first game of the season. Chargers are relatively healthy. You feel pretty good about, who's going to be out there on Friday night and get after it and see if you can get that first win of the season.
Seems like the Chiefs got in last night, Wednesday night. So the Chargers get in, almost a full day earlier, try to acclimate themselves. So, Money, I was at the media availability in the practice yesterday, and I don't know why I was expecting just, a normal scrum for whatever reason in my mind, right?
Yeah.
I walk in, there are hundreds of international media. It's like an international media frenzy for Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh. They were getting applauses, standing O's. They were getting claps after their press conferences, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, I think you forget, what having a star quarterback means for a team. And there's a reason why last year the NFL made the Chargers the first Thursday night flex. It's why there's 7 nationally televised games. It's why they're on a standalone to kick off the season Friday night after the Super Bowl champions play. They have stars. I mean, look, Justin Herbert is a superstar. Jim Harbaugh is a superstar head coach. And so I think for Charger fans that may feel like this is adversity and unfair, get used to it. Get used to Thursday night flexes. Get used to playing on holidays. Get used to playing on short weeks, nationally televised games, international games. And this is only going to embolden that. When the commissioner sees hundreds of people excited to talk to Justin Herbert, no doubt. And I know it's cycles. It's cyclical, and other teams have those opportunities or those bits of adversity. But don't be surprised if it's Chargers Rams that get sent to Australia next year. Like that's not going to be surprising to me at all.
Yeah. Just to give you guys a peek behind the curtain.
Easy, Tyler. Just prepare yourself for it. Okay, bud?
Tyler's ready for all the international trips.
Right? You think 11 hours is a long flight. Wait till you get a hold of freaking 18 and a half, brother.
Australia?
Yeah.
Let's go.
And guess what Australia has? Waves. More waves.
I know. We could do an entire podcast on Money's last 24 hours.
Yeah, whatever.
That's separate. We can talk about it at the end, too. But when you talk about yesterday, just a peek behind the curtain,
Yeah.
get in about 9 a.m., Chargers get a little rest here, go to practice. They come back here and are treated to a Brazilian-style barbecue team dinner. So the team bonding aspect of this, it's real. And I go back to like the last 7 games. Chargers have lost the last 7 to the Chiefs. Yeah. They've had the lead in the fourth quarter in 5 of them. In the 6, they were tied in the fourth quarter. The only one they got blown out was a meaningless game, I think, in like week 18.
Yeah.
So this game always comes down to the wire. But for whatever reason, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's unbelievable in one-score games. But I almost feel like you have to kind of throw out history in some regard, because last year with Jim Harbaugh, remember, Justin was on one leg in that first game. You lose on a last-second field goal in Arrowhead. I just feel like a Jim Harbaugh-prepared team may attack this a little bit differently this year.
Look, I think for me, the biggest thing is they've never been able to run the ball against the Chiefs.
That's the key.
It's just been a struggle for whatever reason. And last year, coach comes in, we heard what Greg Roman had to say, and they did their best to try to make it right with JK and with Gus, and it just didn't happen, and it certainly did not happen against the Chiefs. But you talked about it, like the average margin of victory in those, and look, you said they've won 7 in a row, but it's by an average of 5 points, and they have the one blowout in there. Outside of that, it's been 19-17, 13-10. And like the one thing that I think we've noticed.
With leads in the fourth quarter.
With leads in the fourth quarter, like last year at Arrowhead, they're up by a point with 4 minutes to go. Can you get the stop?
Doinked field goal.
The doinked field goal, exactly, that went through. But to me, like, there's a reason why I think the games look the way they look. Is for whatever reason, these two coaches, and I think these two quarterbacks, they just kind of know, hey, maybe you just got to play it a little bit safer, because it feels like Mahomes has been a little bit safer in these games, and they've been sort of spag games. Spagnuolo's been sort of the star of these, where he has shut down this rush attack. Every now and then you'll get that Herbert forced turnover, and so to me, that's sort of the Greg Roman element of this. You've completely remade your room. You've got a horse as a running back that you drafted in the first round. You've got this offensive line. I know it took the huge shot with Slater, but you bring in Mekhi Becton. You've got all that beef inside with Becton, Bozeman, and Zion. Can you finally get this running game to work? Can you get it to work so you can open things up a little bit and play action can work, and we can finally get some explosives out there? Because I think ultimately that's what you're going to have to do against Spags. He does not care about anything downfield. He has pressed the line, and it has been really hard to run the ball against this team.
The big note that came out of yesterday's presser from Jim Harbaugh, he expects Najee Harris to play in this football game, and that's fantastic news. If you asked me this 2 weeks ago, we'd say probably no chance, because he didn't practice at all in training camp. But gets back to practice last week, full practice this week, and you said it with the running game, man, especially in fourth quarters, when you have a horse like Omarion Hampton, but also a guy who has started every game that he's played in the NFL, Najee Harris, 1,000 yards every season. Fourth quarter of football games with the Chiefs, no pun intended, chief among them in the fourth quarter. If you have a lead, to be able to run the football, they just have not been able to do that in the fourth quarter. That may be the elixir to beating.
That's a great point, Chris, because that's what you need, right? You need a 4-minute drill, and they just have not been able. You met leads in 5 of the 7 games that they lost. You got a 4-minute drill, and you win those games, and they just have not been able to do it. And every time they punt it away, and I do think, even though everybody's going to say, don't look here, look forward, like, you can't help it. It has happened too many times where you're looking at the clock and you're like, here we are again, 3.5 minutes left, 2-point lead, 6-point lead, and somehow it just unravels. Well, the best way to overcome that is to not give them the ball back. And so, look, I think last year, Gus certainly did not quite work out the way they had hoped. I think JK, when you look at it overall, there were explosives in there where he was able to break something, but run in, run out, it just wasn't quite there. And so I think this year, that's, again, I hate to kind of keep making the same point, but to me, it's just the key. I think it's the key to this game and sort of the key to this season. Can you get, what you invested? Because look, Najee, people will point out the lack of explosives and all that, but if you just look at yards gained by design, like, what is he supposed to gain the way this is blocked?
It's like what you said last week. He'll get you 4 yards.
Exactly, and that's what they needed. That's what they desperately needed. So hopefully that's what they get. If they, if not, and look, Coach said, I believe what I read was Coach told Rich Eisen, who's calling the game on YouTube, that Omarion's going to get the start. So I'm anxious to see, how ready he is to give Najee carries. Because I think if he's not, if you're worried about some of that soft tissue and he's not ramped up enough yet, when you look at the practice squad, is this maybe, and I know I took a lot of incoming for this by putting him on the 53, but is this like a Nyheim Hines sort of situation where you've got your horse in Hampton, you've got another big back in Hassan Haskins, who had the best preseason of any running back on the roster, and then you've got that third back. To me, when you're looking at it and it's Najee, Hampton, and Haskins, it's kind of like, oh God, it's just three monsters. So I'm sort of interested to see how that whole thing shakes out.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And then, just the weapons on the outside for Justin. One of the things too, the Chiefs have played so many different styles over the years. You mentioned how Spagnuolo's kind of been the headliner to some of these games as of late, but Mahomes is capable of putting up 38 too. And Justin Herbert, in terms of a fast start, it feels very cliche. We say, hey, got to get off to a fast start. Against Kansas City Chiefs, you have to get off to a fast start. And maybe that starts with Justin in his arm and all these new weapons on the outside.
I think the flip side of that, Chris, is that the job that Jesse Minter's done, and what a great job he did last year in those games. And I do think there's probably, it feels like, based on what they did in the offseason, how they've been talking about it, Travis Kelce saying maybe he wasn't as committed last year as he should have been, going out on the Taylor Swift tour and all that sort of thing, and the shape he says he's in. They draft Xavier Worthy. He's another year down the road. Hollywood Brown is now back and healthy after missing all of last season. They want to push the ball. Yeah. Like, they want their explosives back. We haven't seen it in a half decade. I mean, it's kind of been a Patrick Mahomes that's not looked like the Patrick Mahomes the first 5 years, the last 4 years. So I think I think there's going to be opportunities. I think they're going to try to test this defense when they look out at that secondary.
Especially with Worthy, man.
Yeah, and look, that was the difference in the game at SoFi, right? It was one play. I wouldn't call it a busted assignment. It was just kind of a blown coverage, and there's the difference in the game. That Xavier Worthy touchdown. That was the only explosive play of the entire game.
I think that was Christian Fulton, who's coincidentally on the Chiefs right
Exactly. Now. So I do think you're going to see the Chiefs try, because they've said it all offseason. And I don't think they're saying it to like rope-a-dope you and they're just going to come out and pound the ball with Pacheco. We know they're very good at that. But I do think you're going to see some opportunities for a secondary that created a lot of turnovers last year to perhaps get their hand. And that's like, look, we've done this so many times. Like, you've got to cash in those turnovers.
Chargers Weekly is presented by Splitero, helping homeowners access their home equity with no monthly payments. Splitero offers home equity investments, a better way to access the cash you need from your home without getting to go through a bank. Get a lump sum of cash in exchange for a share of your home's future value. Pay off debt, renovate your home, and better your life. Get your free cash estimate at splitero.com/Chargers.
Money, we weren't sure maybe a few weeks ago, but Rashee Rice is not going to play in this football game. So one weapon down for Patrick Mahomes. But just to kind of bring it back to the Chargers offense and Justin Herbert, these new weapons. And I'm really intrigued with the wide receiver position. Who's going to be on the field? Because, can you keep KLS off the field? Can you keep Trey Harris off the field? You got Quentin. He's 100% now.
Yeah.
Keenan. Ladd. I mean, it's going to be really fascinating to see how they deploy the wide receivers.
Yeah, well, remember, we didn't have Ladd out there in one of those two games. So
that's right.
So you're talking about the number one weapon for Herbert last year, a guy that broke all the rookie records held by the aforementioned Keenan Allen, that wasn't out there for one of those two games, and they were both tight games. So that's going to be a huge advantage, certainly, to have him available, not to mention to have Keenan back. Keenan's always played well against the Chiefs, and again, when it's Spags and those exotic looks and those design blitzes, when you're not, whatever, that you never know when they're going to come, having a guy that knows how to make himself available is going to be pretty special. I think on top of that, the one group I just don't feel like we talk about enough, and I know I'm projecting, but I'm also kind of looking backwards. Just to me, the tight end group is so different this year. And I think there is such an upgrade there.
Markedly improved.
With a sure-handed Tyler Conklin. I think with a more now defined, he made the initial 53. We want these guys out there. We're going to be in 12 or we're going to be in 22. And I want Tucker Fisk and I want Will Dissly. And they're both attached to, let's say, the right side of the line. And guess what? Matlock's in the backfield and here's Hampton. To me, that is a huge difference. Last year, I can't remember what week it was that Fisk joined the team, but remember, he didn't get a lot of run until the back half of that season. So I think you're talking about a group in that rush attack, and then also with Oronde Gadsden, who had that big catch in the San Francisco game. Like, it's such a different group. And I'm you brought up the wide receivers with Keenan back, with the emergence of Ladd, and how you're going to have to honor him and perhaps double him to open things up for a player like Q or Trey if he's active, or KLS if he's active, or Darius Davis. The one thing that Coach said is he talked about the running backs as receivers, and that is something we barely saw last year. I mean, it was almost non-existent.
Yeah.
So
both those guys can do it too.
Exactly. Najee's always been great catching the ball out of the backfield his whole career, and Omarion Hampton, we know, has that level of explosiveness. So, you mentioned wide receivers, I mentioned tight ends, and then we both kind of collectively come back to, and the running backs.
And the running backs.
Yeah.
And Justin Herbert. The wild card game did not go as planned, obviously, in all three phases. But for Justin, it had to have been so disappointing to put together a regular season like that and to try to put the team on your shoulders. 4 interceptions in that game. He has to be champing at the bit to get out there against the Kansas City Chiefs on an international stage. And he's the type of guy who I know that stuck with him all offseason. He's ready to go.
Yeah, and I think it's also, look, it was the offensive line's worst game of the year, and look, you had Jamari out there in place of Trey, and it was, just in terms of a performance, in terms of a graded performance, whatever, every single offensive lineman had their worst game of the year. So I think now you're down Slater. You've been challenged from the way you mentioned Herbert, but I think it's also a lot of that is the guys in front of him. He had no time. He had guys in his lap on every single snap. So I think that's that combination.
All the weapons were down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you had Ladd and nothing else, literally nothing else. So I think the combination of all that, I'm sure they'd probably, I think if I were them, I'd probably want to just pretend like that thing never happened. That's like that one game where the defense played so well that first half, and you had so many opportunities against the Texans team that had just been blown out and couldn't get anything going offensively.
We talked about last week, there was a play here or there, the C.J. Stroud play that could have changed everything.
Yeah, and I mean, they just could not get it done. And so I think, to your point from earlier about the fast start, like, hey, man, in that game, you drive it straight down their throats. You have a Will Dissly drop that could have been a touchdown. You settle for 3. You get the immediate turnover on the next play, and you can't move the ball at all, and you settle for 3, and it's 6-0 instead of 14-0. I think 14-0, what the Texans had just been through to back into the playoffs, could have been completely different. So I hope that is the one thing they remember. Like, hey, man, to your point, start fast, punch it in, get a touchdown on the board right away, and let's see if we can apply a little bit of pressure instead of getting in these nail-biter games, these grinded-out games, that's it's 16-15 or whatever, 16-4, 17-16 with 4 minutes to go.
Yeah. I think it's worth mentioning special teams too. That third phase, Ryan Fickens has done a phenomenal job with this unit the last few years. You got the kicker and Cameron Dicker, J.K. Scott. Not having Josh Harris, that's going to be kind of the small wrinkle that you hope just goes seamless. And just that phase of the game, whether it's kick return, punt return, field goals, it's got to be clean across the board against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, we just said it, right? 5 points. So field goals are going to be important. We know the field wasn't great last year, so you're going to have those specialists out there early trying to make sure, and you've now got a long snapper that you're not used to. We know how important Josh Harris is. They made him the highest paid long snapper in the league. He's a captain on the team, so you can't gloss over what that loss might mean. So it is going to be huge. I think the return game could be huge. When you've got someone as dynamic as Darius Davis that can take it to the house on any potential kick return, and now with the start at the 35, we saw the preseason. I assume that's a warm-up for what we're going to see, that Dicker can drop that thing between the 10 and the goal line. That's what they're going to want to do. And so, and look, there's a reason why Ja made this team, because he's their best gunner. But other than that, you had to remake that room. Jelshawn Phillips, even though he didn't make the initial, he's now back on. Like, that's, how important it is when you just look at the roster. And that's what you see. You see, Caleb Murphy, great special teams player. Hassan Haskins, great special teams player. Ja Taylor, So they're telling you, third phase might be the difference in a lot of the games this year.
Yeah.
Head to San Francisco and experience the Super Bowl with On Location, the official hospitality provider of the NFL and proud partner of the Los Angeles Chargers. Secure packages that bundle verified tickets with exclusive access to pregame parties,
featuring renowned entertainment and top-of-the-line food and drinks, plus immersive post-game field celebrations. On Location delivers unforgettable experiences so you can create memories that will last a lifetime. Visit onlocationexp.com/SBLX or call 877-373-5062 to secure your ticket package today. Listen, man, you've called games a number of different places. I think the wild card is what is that crowd going to be like on Friday? It's just if the press conferences were any indication, they love their football down here. They are happy that the NFL is down here for this big game on an international stage, and I wonder what the crowd is going to be like. There's so many little things that you can't prepare for, and that's one of them for sure.
Yeah, I think the one thing to recognize, and we noticed it when we were in London, is there's no home field advantage. You know, it's not a Charger
It's a very
game.
neutral situation.
It's and I think if you're being honest, you know, Travis Kelce is getting married to Taylor Swift. You know, Patrick Mahomes has won the Super Bowl, you know, 3 times, right? 3 times. Like, they're an international brand, especially because of the Kelce thing with Taylor Swift. So I think you're going to probably have a little bit of adversity on that front. But I think, like you said, it's majority neutral. And so it's trying, like I can remember the game they lost in Houston a couple of years ago. It's probably like 3-4 years ago, and it was the COVID year.
Yeah, late that year.
And there was just no energy, man. Like the whole place.
It's like a preseason game.
Yes, it was terrible. And so I think it's feeding off that energy is going to be easy. It's an international stage. It might not be the home game that you wanted at SoFi to feed off of, but there's going to be juice. And that's all. If you ever ask players, that's all they want, man. They say the same thing. Like, I don't care if it's home or road, just as long as there's juice in the crowd. It's when it's flat and it's empty. I think about the Arizona game last year at Monday Night Football. I was like, where is everyone? What
and
is
the game
going
was like on
with this
ESPN
crowd?
Plus too.
Yeah.
It just felt like we were a secondary situation.
And what happened? They played flat, and they ended up losing that game. So I don't think you're going to have that problem there, even though it might not be a Chargers crowd for a Charger home game. I think you'll get a lot of juice, and you'll certainly be able to get a little bounce and a little pep for that.
Yeah, taping this on a Thursday afternoon. There's gonna be a lot of Charger fans here. They've made the trip. We're going to the.
You're gonna go see them.
The official party later today. I don't know if you're watching this on a Thursday or Friday, but the Cowboys Eagles Chargers fans can be well represented both in Brazil and from LA and all over the country, man. So I do think it's a really cool opportunity for Charger fans to get down here, experience this completely different culture, something completely different. And I'll tell you this, the guys have really embraced everything that's been kind of thrown their way, but you can tell that there's this, okay, we have one goal here, and that's to beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, look, they can't be me and get distracted and want to go out and explore and see everything you possibly can and make the most of your trip. Ultimately, they're still here to play a game. And we're seeing a lot of what we saw when we spent the week in Charlotte last year. And that's guys playing chess, guys playing ping pong, guys hanging out at the pool. Last night, you mentioned the private Brazilian steak dinner by the pool. Like, all of that's happening, and I do think that goes a long way. You know, when you're away from your family, like you said, when you're a 12-hour flight from LA, you want to try to make it as comfortable as possible. And I think Coach Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz and the whole staff, like everybody involved with the operation, the Spanos family, like they know how to do that, you know, and I don't think that's an issue at all. I think these guys look like they're having a great time here. So, you know, at least that's not something that's on the forefront. Like, can we just get out of here? Can we get this over with? Why couldn't we fly in tomorrow? I don't get that that's the vibe at all.
Give me your 24 hours, your last 24 hours in 2 minutes. What'd you do?
I got out of Dodge, man. As soon as we landed and got back to the hotel, I took out all my stuff, unpacked, put together a little duffel. It's maybe this big with a couple pairs of trunks, a Colby Plus 1 mil wetsuit top. Went over to Localiza and rented a car. Didn't want to be too conspicuous, even though it was very inexpensive. I was like, you know what?
What'd you get?
It's just like a little Fiat or something, you know, and rolled that out to Juquei to see a buddy of mine, Tiago Carmona. No, I'd never met him before. A friend of a friend, a very good friend of a very good friend, my friend Heath. So shout out to my man Heath Nutty, who was a pro on the WSL for a while, and so was Tiago. So he's like, yeah, my guy lives a couple hours away. So about a 2.5 hour
So he
drive.
was expecting your arrival. He's probably give you the 5-star treatment.
Yeah, he owns a bunch of Airbnbs in Juquea Beach and put me up in one. And we surfed a couple days. We went to an incredible steakhouse, a friend of his who owns a couple, 3 or 4 different restaurants on the beach cities there, and surfed 2 different spots. Went to an incredible coffee shop for Brazilian coffee in the morning and pastries and stuff. And they had this like Nutella croissant thing that was just stupid.
We need like a money vlog, dude.
Yeah,
You should have documented
I
it.
threw a couple of the stuff up. He was, he was nice enough to shoot a couple videos while I was taking my last wave in when it got a little bit smaller. But yeah, we got some good waves. The water was warm. The people were incredibly friendly. Like, you hear about Brazilians in the water and how aggro they are. And these guys were just like, get everything you want. Any wave you see, you catch. Today is your day. And they did that both days. They could not have been nicer. So
That's
it was
awesome,
a
dude.
special experience. If you ever come here, I cannot recommend it enough. It's a beautiful little friendly beach town, just very high-end vibe, just really nice restaurants and coffee shops. And the place I stayed was first class. So yeah, reach out to Tiago. I don't even know what his last name is because they all call him
Tiago,
Shrimpy.
man.
He's got a busted finger, like a Baldinger finger, where his tip, and it looks like a little shrimp.
He's the Baldy of surfing.
So everybody calls him Shrimpy. I think his last name's Carmona, or that's his nickname is Carmona. I think is Shrimp. So that's what everybody calls him.
That's amazing.
So yeah, big thank you to him and to Heath at JS Industries there in Oceanside for hooking it all up.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Well, anything else before we get out of here?
Let's get a win, man.
Let's just get a win, huh?
Let's get a win, have a great flight home, and get ready for the Raiders because, again, it's Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos. I mean, those are your first 3 games. Start out 1-0, and let's start. I mean, the NFL sent us to Canton, had us play 4 preseason games, sending us to Brazil, Monday night in Vegas, home game against the Broncos, then off to New York for a 10 a.m. Pacific kick.
And starting in the middle of July.
Starting in the middle of July.
Starting training camp. So this is
start it right.
This has been a long, slow build
Yeah.
to this moment. So you can tell these guys are locked in and
Yeah.
want to put on a show on an international stage and get to 1-0 against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, for Money, I'm Chris. This has been Chargers Weekly, presented by Splitero.